take anything from us because we've already got the service that is not really important to our everyday life, but it really is.
Yes, it really is. It really
You know,
is.
and that's it's just a funny thing I think for us. A lot of times when those bills hit, and you're talking, most people don't have the funds set aside per se for a medical emergency. You know, you'll make an arrangement with the credit card people. You may make arrangements with your house, your mortgage, but a lot of times when the credit card, when the medical bills come, we don't think to try to figure out a way to deal with them. They're just there, and we figure since we have our services already been provided, it's kind of, oh well, I got what I need. But when you go to try to buy something or do something, those things pop up. Whether you're going schooling, trying to open up another credit card, trying to get a car loan. And it's just a funny thing that we don't take them in consideration all the time. They're never on the top of our mind, how those bills come to pass. But believe you me, they're there and they ain't going nowhere.
They really are, and I don't think a lot of times we really prepare for those things. We nobody wants any medical issues, especially long term or hospitalization.
Yeah.
Or have to do some type of treatment at home. You don't. We don't. I don't think we prepare ourselves
Oh, we don't.
for those
We
moments.
don't. We don't prepare because you don't think that you're going to get sick. You don't think that someone in your family is going to get sick. So you just go about life. And I always have this saying, if it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect you. So you don't think about it until it drops a bomb in your lap. And now you're trying to juggle a hot potato, trying to figure out what to do next. And it's a scary thing because it's got to be taken care of. And for me, one of the things that blessed me is here's, yes, y'all heard about my backstory of going into the hospital. But the thing is, for about 30 days, based on my job and going into the hospital, I didn't have any insurance because my insurance didn't kick in until the first of the year. And remember, I went in on December 3rd. So that's for 30 days that I'm in the hospital before I even got to surgery, just racking up the medical bills. And it was just like, you're laying there thinking, oh my gosh, here we go. Another day, I got another bill. What am I going to do next? Yeah, every time they bring you a meal, that's a bill. Every medication, that's a bill. Every time that nurse walks in the room, that's a bill. That TV comes on, that's a bill. And you don't think about those things when you're not in there, but when you're in there, trust me, they plague you because you got to remember, once you leave, those bills are still due.
All of that on top of just laying in that bed every single day.
Every
Everything
day.
else is just piling on top of it. And you try not to think about those things because you want to get well, and family members want you to get well. So you try not to think about those things. But in reality, it's real.
It's a stressor.
And it's going to eventually hit home.
Yeah.
And then you're going to talk about it.
And the thing is, a lot of people think I got medical insurance. Well, yes, you may have medical insurance, but medical insurance based on what you have doesn't always cover 100% of your bills. So you're still responsible for some portion of that bill. And whether it's $20 or $1,000, the fact is, do you have that money available set aside to be able to manage and take care of that bill when it arises? And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, this is so good. So good. As Corey said, medical insurance for us did not hit until January 1st of 2024. And so those 30 days plus
It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was, for basically the whole month of December, except 2 days.
Except for 2 days.
Except 2 days. So, like you said, those are days where you got to count the medications, every shot, every poke, every meal,
every blood drawn.
All of that is considered in that medical bill that's eventually going to show up.
Yep.
And, I thank God because there were a lot of great people that came in that was giving us information that we had no idea about, which, was very helpful, extremely helpful. So I thank God for that part, to seek disability, Medicaid. They were given all kinds of information because they knew at this point, those days of the month of December, he didn't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move forward on to first. I want to say this, that I was reading something, and I think you pointed it out too. The Census Bureau, we know they report
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of stuff goes to the Census Bureau, and the Census Bureau takes report of everything financially, household wise, all of that stuff. So the Census Bureau said that they reported that 16.2% of households with health insurance coverage for all members all year, fully insured, had medical debt, compared to 30.8% of those that were not fully insured.
Mm-hmm.
So it says insurance is an important factor, as we were saying, in how much medical debt a household takes on. As households, as households with full insurance would generally take on lower amounts of medical debt than households without full coverage.
But the key word is still debt.
Debt. That's
And the thing,
that's what we're talking about, the financial part.
The other side to that coin is that makes up about 20% of a person's household income.
Yeah.
So that means 20% of your household income is medical bills.
Yep.
That's huge. When you're talking about taking consideration what you're going to be doing, in 10 years, 5 years, 100 years, whatever the case may be, that debt, that 20% of household income based on cost of living and, household, what you make a year, if you have a two people household, or if it's a one person household, that 20% adds up. And they don't let us slide with no interest, because they always want to get money. And then of course, you get those crazy calls in the evening when you got people calling you, want to know when you're gonna pay your bill, can you pay your bill?
They have no mercy.
No mercy, because of course that's how they get paid. So that's what they hire them for, is to do their job. And you can't be mad at them for doing the job, because the bill is still owed. And that's something we didn't think through, is how we're going to pay that bill. Like I said, we just got the service, and moving out to that point, it is what it is. But that bill, that debt, is still lingering in the background. Even if we don't think about it until it pops up, it's always there until it's paid off, one way or another.
I thank God, because sometimes it is a fearful moment. You hear people talk about not having insurance and going in the hospital sick and stuff, and feeling like they're not being treated well because they know that you don't have insurance. And we didn't have to experience that, because they took really good care of you, except that one little moment, but that was because your body couldn't handle.
Yeah, I was going through some stuff.
Yeah. So I thank God that they didn't make a difference in Quarry not having insurance while he was in the hospital sick.
I think a lot of people that's what their fear is, going to the hospital and acquiring a bill that they know they can't afford to pay, and how they're going to be treated on top of that. And nobody wants to be treated poorly. And of course, in the hospital, you expect the best care possible, because that's what everybody trains to do, is to provide you that bedside manner. But it was a blessing for me, because knowing that I didn't have insurance, and believe you me, they made it a point to let me know that at this moment there was no insurance available, but they still gave me the red carpet treatment. And I can never say anything negative about the treatment that I received from the nurses and the staff that I had going into my surgery, because they took care of me without that insurance, knowing it was coming, but at that moment I didn't have it.
And the crazy thing about it is too, Quarry, is that a lot of people won't even go to the doctor as well, because they don't have insurance, and they're afraid that bill is going to come in and they can't afford it. And so a lot of people get sick, stay home, don't go tend to themselves, because they don't have health insurance. And it's so important to not focus on that, not put that focus in your head that you don't have health insurance, so you don't want to go to the doctor and get yourself treated for whatever the situation is you may be going through. There are all types of services out here to help those that need insurance, or that need that bill covered while you're, getting yourself taken care of, getting yourself treated. So don't cut yourself short. Don't sell yourself short, your health, your life short, because you feel like, I don't have insurance, so I can't go to the doctor. I don't have insurance, so I can't go to the ER. Go. Trust me, there is services and resources out there that helps those that don't have the insurance. So don't sit home and be sick because you don't have insurance. Go
Yeah.
get treated.
Please don't do that. And that's, that brings up talking about the bill. So I was in the hospital and I was, they kept coming to me asking me questions about my insurance. But of course, the deadline for when it was due and the bill that was coming up wouldn't pay it, wouldn't cover it. So I had this one particular lady. She was very, very nice. Her and another gentleman, they worked together.
That guy, yeah.
And this guy said to me, he said, listen, we're going to get you some kind of coverage before you leave here. He said, I'm going to fight to get it for you. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm laying here, in my head, I'm just thinking, well, I'm going to get some medical insurance coming to first. But once again, it's not going to cover that back bill. And he said, no, we're going to get you something. We're going to try our best to get you some kind of coverage so that way you can, try to eat up some of this medical cost, because of course it is coming and your insurance won't cover it because it's past 30 days or prior to 30 days. So most medical insurances, anything prior to that 30 days, they won't cover it because it's not that current cycle. So this gentleman fought tooth and nail. And I remember after getting out of the hospital, I just got a phone call. Hey, Mr. Wilson, we just want to talk to you. We have some insurance for you. Do you have a minute? And I was like, wow, that was unexpected, but a blessing. And I thank God for that, because that was what helped cover that bill. Because if not, I'd be responsible for that whole entire, amount of money and the amount of time that almost 40 days that I stayed in there. That would have been a lot of time that would have been covered that I would have had to cover out of my pocket. And that bill would have just been sitting there, and I would have been getting those annoying phone calls and emails and text or whatever else they try to do to get a hold of you nowadays. You know how they do when they call you and say, hey, we're trying to reach John. Who is John? I don't know you, but that's the funny part about it, is you think you guys are trying to get really slick about it, but that's the job they got to do. I mean, it's understandable.
Yeah, and speaking on that, with the medical bill comes or other bills. So unfortunately, with that whole situation of Quarry being in the hospital and the financial part of the medical bills, and then not working.
That was tough.
So where does the money come from if he's not working? It wasn't no long-term financial pay here. It wasn't no long or short-term money coming in from the day Quarry went in the hospital on December the 3rd. After that, it ended. So now we talk about financial bills coming in the house, how everything is being paid, how everything is going to be taken care of. And that's when another thing that you have to take into consideration when it's a medical situation, medical urgency, a medical crisis, not being prepared for it, not even, because we don't think about it. We literally don't think about it. Some may, some don't. Most don't think about it. According to statistics, most people are not prepared.
Most people don't have $1,000 in their account, they say, for any kind of emergency, whether it be a car breaking down or a bill, a medical bill, whatever the case. So that, that's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you're talking about, I don't have that much money. So if something arises, what do I do? How do I manage? How do I keep going on? Of course, we don't want to have to borrow the money, but sometimes we're blessed to be able to have people in our lives who are willing to kind of give us what we need without bringing it up every time they see us. And that, that helps us out, because at least we can get that out of the way. And then we just have to work on paying that person back if that's, something that's available to you. But that's not always the case. And most people don't have someone like that. Most people have to rely on it. I think a lot of people are afraid that if they go into the hospital and something is wrong, that the work they're going to miss. Hopefully you've been on your job long enough to where you have short-term and long-term disability, or some kind of program available to you. And that was the thing for me. For that full month of December, my insurance didn't kick in. January 1st, once the insurance kicks in, I have somewhat short-term disability, though it's not a lot of money, but it was still something coming into the household that was better than nothing. But it still wasn't enough. And that was the hard part about the bills. The bills don't care about that. They still come, no matter how much money you think you got coming in, or whatever the case is. But those bills are still showing up on the door. They're still coming in your email. They're still giving you phone calls, because that debt has to be paid as well, because that's your everyday life, paying your light bill, your water bill, car note, as we said earlier, credit cards, of course, for you to buy things, eat with, whatever the case may be. Those things are still in play. And So we have to look at how do we financially set ourselves up to be able to get to that point where we have some money in the bank. And it's a difficult task because life keeps going no matter what. Life don't stop life. This adulting thing is something else, boy. I tell you. My grandkids tell me all the time, say, Papa, the adulting is hard. I said, try to tell y'all when you were kids to stay a kid as long as you could, because once you got out there in the world had an expectation from you, and that was bills, life. You have fun, but the other side of having fun is there's also things that come into play like bills, debt, student loan debt, all that good stuff. But at this point, we're just talking about medical bills because that's a big thing that people have to deal with a lot of times.
So how do you get prepared for that? What kind of strategies are there for people to really think about to prepare themselves for emergency situations? And for us, as we think about all these things, and why we came up with this conversation is budget. It's budgeting. Cutting certain expenses off.
Yeah.
If you don't need certain things, you don't get those things.
Yeah.
You got to learn to be
frugal.
That part too.
Be a Midas.
And build an emergency fund. Have a separate account specifically for emergency funds, because we never know when emergency will happen.
That's right. You never know
You
when
just
a
never
medical
know.
or just in general, your everyday life, your car, something is always there lingering in the background, waiting to take money from you in that sense. And so if you're not prepared for it, when it hits you, it does kind of take a toll on you, because now you're stressing out. You walk home one morning, or you wake up and your light's off, or you wake up and your water's off, or whatever. And those are little things that we don't plan on all the time, but they're there. So when we build these funds, we want to start looking at what can we cut as far as cost-wise expenses. That extra latte or whatever the case may be. We want to look at how can we take that $4 or that $10 or whatever it may cost and set it aside. Do I eat out 5 days a week? Do I eat out 3 days a week and then fix me meals?
Or once a month.
Yeah, once a month, whatever the case may be. I treat myself. I used to treat myself all the time before I got sick. But the thing was, that's what also led to me being sick, was the fact I'm a foodie, so I like to eat. So I was splurging on a lot of food, buying this, buying that, trying to get that taste feel. But then I realized, and being in this situation, it also helped me understand that I don't really need all that stuff like I used to. I mean, buying the rib. I mean, I was one of those people that would take a long ride to go find a good rib. That was me. A good set of food would do you good for the rest of the day. But realizing that that's $10, $20 that you just gave up, for a one-time situation, when you could have set that aside for a bill that may arise in the future. You keep adding that up every month, and before you know it, you have some money set aside. And we always talk about 401ks and all that stuff. Those are great assets if you have an ability to use them, but everybody doesn't have that ability to have a 401k or some kind of program where they have money that's available to them. So you have to take the hard route and set your budget yourself. And that's where discipline comes into play.
That's what I was just going to say. Discipline, man, that's something else.
That is
and it's not easy, but if you set your mind to the purpose of why you need to be disciplined, it will happen.
Yeah.
It definitely will happen. Let's just step back a little bit. We talked about the medical bills, and we talk about life still goes on. So you have the bills at home, and life still goes on. So when Quarry said he had just a little bit, he meant literally just a little bit, like a little bit, like a little bit,
a little bit, yeah, very, very little bit.
So then it comes to fact of, is the other party or spouse or whomever you're living with, how does that take place?
Are they capable?
Are they capable of doing it? Are they financially secure to do it? Do they have the finances to take care of everything? So that's another thing that played in our life, our situation when Quarry was in the hospital. Because again, when he went in December 3rd, everything stopped. And everything fell on me, paying every bill, all the bills in the house to keep the roof over our head, both car notes, car insurance, Everything, gas, water, electric,
Yeah.
all our credit cards, here's mine, So it was a lot to, you know, not prepare for that. But I guess I have to honestly say, I thank God on that part that I was financially able to make sure we had a roof over our head,
Amen.
the water didn't get cut off, the electric didn't get cut off, the gas didn't get cut off. We didn't lose a car or the van. We didn't lose our vehicles. I mean, I just thank
I was
God in
blessed with a helpmate.
spite of.
Yeah, I was blessed with a helpmate. That's the key part right there. Help me. Somebody that was willing to step in, knowing the circumstance, and be able to pitch in to pick up the slack until I can get back on my feet to be able to go out and work like I'm. And thank God my job is, they're still there to keep my job available to me for the position I'm in, as a manager of a store. But that doesn't pay the bills until I can get back in and actually go to work. Those bills still come.
That goes into place when a lot of people think about themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and at some point in your life you got to take self out of the picture and just understand that it ain't all about you.
Yeah,
it's not all about you. So when do you step in and handle everything? Just step in because of this emergency and make sure everything is taken care of. So I said to myself one day, and I was sharing with someone, I said, it could have been worse. It could have been worse financially all around. I could have been burying my husband for real
Yeah.
because he was at risk for a massive heart attack. When he went in the hospital, didn't even know. He went in for, like we said before, pneumonia. But through everything, tests and all of that, they realized the stents failed and he was at risk for a massive heart attack. That could have been a whole different story. And was I properly prepared for all of that? So we don't think about those things. Some do, most don't. Most don't think about it. But I thank God that I was able to cover everything. Was it a strain? Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't sit here and say it wasn't. I had to give up some of the things that I was accustomed to doing because I had to make sure the house was taken care of first.
Yep.
I had to make sure we still had food coming in. That all the bills was being paid every month.
Like I said, I like to eat, so
yeah, and this is real, y'all. Like this is so real. When you think about how that hit suddenly.
That's what gets you. It hits. It comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't give you time to prepare.
Right.
Even going into the hospital, you don't have time for them to say, "Oh, well, we'll talk about it later." When they get you in there, they want to go to work.
Yeah.
But the thing is, once that work is done, you get a bill, and you're not before you can bat an eye. That bill is showing up at the door.
Yeah. So it hit suddenly, and suddenly I had to make a decision to change my lifestyle. I had to make a decision to change my lifestyle because at that point it was no longer about me. What did I have to set aside to make sure every bill in the house is taken care of? We continue to have a roof over our head, both car notes being paid, car insurance, all this everything fell on me that I had to take care of. And I just thank God so much that I was prepared to be able to financially do it in spite of the hardship that it could have caused. Um, it was just a matter of me just saying, when you got to let go of some things you can't do that you used to do because everything costs, everything has a price behind it.
That's right.
And I was okay with that. I literally didn't need anything. I just needed to make sure that our house was, taken care of and everything in there. So I just thank God. And, we wanted to share that moment, about all of that and just being prepared moving forward. Just make sure you keep that in mind that life happens and life be life. And we don't know when an emergency may come up. We don't know if it's going to be long term, short term, but are you prepared? Are you financially prepared?
Not the hour of the time.
Just don't even know that part.
Not the hour of the day, hour of the month, hour of the year. You never know when life is going to life you and throw you a curveball. And so if you're prepared, a smidgen of preparedness is better than no preparedness. It's like being in a dark room with no flashlight.
Man, being in a dark room, that made me think like years ago, I don't know what would have happened.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I just thank God financially I was able to do so this time. Like, oh my gosh. When you think about stuff like that, you be like, Lord, I thank you for this moment. I thank you for this time. I thank you for the finances. I thank you for the home. I thank you for the cars. I thank you for the water, the gas. I mean, you sometimes you got to get technical and break those things down because it could be a different story. I thank you that you saved Corey's life.
Amen.
And because of that, I'm gonna do everything that I need to do on my behalf to make sure everything is taken care of.
And like I said before, it's like being in a dark room with no light, and your financial savings can start off as small as a match, and then work up to a candle, and then work up to a pen light, and then work up to a flashlight, and then work up to a spotlight. But you got to get to that point where you start somewhere.
Man, this is getting so good, and we at the end of our time. Everything is so good because life hit, and we had some valuable learning lessons, some valuable teachings behind that. And if you don't learn behind some of the things that you go through, some of these things are truly teaching lessons.
They're teaching moments.
Yeah, they are. So we thank God for that.
The whole point of life is to learn from what you do.
That's it. So y'all remember, are you prepared? If not, think about it, come up with a strategy, and take it into consideration. Listen, y'all have a great day. We'll be back next week, same time, same bad channel. But remember, take care of yourself. All right.
Amen.
And don't give up.
Don't give up.
Good afternoon. I am Edwina Wilson, the CEO. Thank you for tuning into a New Choice radio show. Join us every Thursday, 12 p.m. on WPCE.
You got used to talking on the air now, huh?
And Peace 95.3. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, send us an email to newchoiceva@gmail.com. That's NUCHOICEVA@gmail.com. Again, that's 12 p.m. on WPCA 1400 and 95.3 FM. And remember to dream big and never give up on yourself.